10:30 members, so good morning and welcome to the Enterprising Services Subcommittee for Wednesday. Can't remember the day, what's the date? 12th. 13 days to Christmas. Sederunt and apologies.
Thank you, Chair. We have 9 members present and one apology from Councillor Surtees. Graham Nicholl is not present at the start of the meeting.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Tracy. Any declarations of interest? Yeah.
Chair, I've got to mention agenda item 4. One of my companies is mentioned as part of the local purchasing thing in item 4.6. But as this is just noting service updates, I don't think it's really a problem.
Okay, thanks for that. Item 3 is the Enterprising Services Monitoring Report for 2018-19 for the period ending the 30th of September 2018. Members may be aware that we did get one, I think, at the last meeting was only about 8 weeks ago, for the monitoring report at the end of August. The November figures are just being collated, so that's why we've got the September figures. But the report should provide members with an overview of key budget analysis of the budget monitoring position for enterprising services for the current financial year up to the 30th of September. The services covered in this report are both those provided with a budget and those that are operated on a trading basis or are fully allocated at the year end. We do have the Finance Officer, Caroline McQuiston, is present, and we also have other officers for any questions that may arise. Officers, do you have any comments before I hand over to members?
Happy to take any questions.
Over to members. Malcolm.
Thank you, Chair. It's item 3.13. We seem to be running into a few problems with the fleet management thing. In particular, here we've got 24,000 of additional repair costs relating to returned leased vehicles. I take it that would be making good damage to the vehicles or mechanical issues, but it seems quite a lot of money and would perhaps imply that we're not really keeping an eye on how these vehicles are being used and maintained.
Thanks very much, Chair. I mean, it's actually the same point. It's a loss of income for NHS, Dumfries and Galloway as well. And over the past few years, we've been talking about collaborative approaches and all that. The NHS seem to pull out of these contracts very easily. Yet there doesn't seem to be any sort of comeback on them. I'm just wondering if there's any discussions about collaborative working in the future with IGB or even the Health and Social Care Partnership, because I do believe that they are overspent on a lot of things, or I've got a deficit of quite a lot. But we've been talking about collaborative working for a long time. I'm not saying it's EnterprisingDG's issue here. I think it's the NHS's issue here. But is there any discussions going on?
I'll hand you over to Gordon to answer both points that have been raised.
Good morning, through you, Chair. On the first point, when it comes to lease deals, they're sort of plagued at the back end with leasing companies trying to make money back on the residual values that they've set at the start of the contract. These particular vehicles were protected with some elements of procurement on the terms that the vehicles run through, and that's something that I'm working on at the moment. That original figure, yesterday I had it reduced into about £7,000, and it's purely just damaged based on what they call the BVRLA guide, scratches, chips. It's gone to the extremes with wheel trims and different bits and pieces like that, excess mileages, which is sort of net by vehicles that are under mileage and so on. So we're still working through that to reduce it to an absolute minimum, but I'm quite confident we will.
I'm well aware of that. I've been through a very similar thing with my company vehicles, and I've found, from what you're saying there, your approach at the moment seems to be the right way to go. I've always found it best to make sure that you deal with these issues before they go back, because the leasing company will potentially just use it as an opportunity to maximise revenue. And it's best, that was why I made the point, it's best about keeping on top of it right from day one. And if that's the direction you're going, then that's fine.
Second point, when it comes to the NHS, the NHS within Dumfries and Galloway, they've been through a huge restructure before we started working with them. They've also gone through a lot of centralisation through the department that they set up in the central belt, and just a combination of them both being able to stand on their own feet within Dumfries and Galloway and the pressures that they're under centrally, for procurement, for how they run their operations, etc., just basically brought our agreement to a natural end. There was nothing that both parties could offer each other, whether it be procurement, sharing postal runs, or the sharing of pool cars, which brought in sort of insurance issues and different issues there. So we sort of exhausted any opportunity of working together for the fleet side of things.
Head of Service wants to
Chair, through you, wholly support what our vehicle maintenance manager is saying, and just to reiterate the point to Councillor Driver, any external agency, whether it be police, fire, NHS, we will actively work with them on a collaborative basis to try and maximise the best gain for Dumfries and Galloway, and the door is always open and we will always speak to them on that basis.
Katie?
Thanks, Chair. My first point is a point that has been raised many times since I was elected back in May 2017, and that is the way that the table's written out, with sometimes there's brackets, sometimes there's not. I think we have asked repeatedly for a universal way of reporting, and the question arises: can we please have plus and minus to indicate underspend? And just first of all, how do we get this process, because it's been repeatedly asked for a simplified version, not just in this committee but throughout, and how do we actually find a resolution to this? Because I don't want to be sitting here in another 6 months or another year still saying the same thing. I've got too much to do with my time to be repeatedly asking the same question. So to check the process on that. But my question in terms of the actual report, page 6, we've got sort of high-level overviews of different services, and I'm just slightly concerned that under expenditure items, both in 3.4 and 3.5, we've got high levels just under other costs. Now, on the building maintenance, we've got £900,000, which is 76% of the expenditure, just tagged as other costs. And on the one below, on vehicle maintenance, other costs of over £1 million, 51% of the entire expenditure. Can we have a breakdown of those figures at some point? Because that's, these are significant percentages of the overall expenditure, and it'd be really interesting to know what actually are these costs that we're paying so much for.
Caroline, I'll bring you in on those 2 points. The first one that you make, Katie, I think since your time started, I think some of the councillors since 1999 have asked about why we can't have minuses, etc. But I think it's more a corporate issue that we probably need to take up and get an explanation for that. But Caroline might have one to hand.
Certainly I can change the brackets to pluses and minuses, but you're always going to have pluses and minuses within any monitoring report. The way that we put the pluses and minuses are in accordance with the Scottish Government practice, so we need to follow that, and also corporate monitoring. All of them, minuses are underspends and pluses are overspends. I'm quite happy to put pluses and minuses. It probably still, you're always going to have some degree of confusion. I'm sorry, it's just the nature of accounts. I have problems with looking at these accounts and been doing it for 30 odd years. Secondly, in terms of the other costs on the table, actually the ABB book has the detailed breakdown of all of these costs. So that's the reference. I can put them in, it just expands the table, but I could certainly, we could put the ABB book relevant page in as an appendix.
What's the ABB book? Because again, we have no list of abbreviations, which has been asked for, previously as well, and even just a link.
It's the activity-based budget that I think we get a copy a full copy of that from finance at the beginning of the year, and then in some of the other reports it's down. But are you happy? Are we happy to get an expanded report?
We don't. I mean, if it's a huge document, we don't need a physical copy of it. But you know, there's an option to put links into the appendix. So just even the web link to that, so we can then it's referenced that the web link's there for us to find that information. I appreciate you don't want to be spending hours printing off papers that aren't maybe required.
Okay, it sounds though hyperlinks are the way to go. Yeah. Yeah. I've got John. Is this the same point?
Yes.
The same point? No. Same point. I've got John.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was looking at Appendix 1, and I mean on page 12. It's a table that contains a great deal of information, and it's actually quite difficult with this one snapshot to spot any trends. And I would much prefer it if we could have an ongoing line graph showing a straight line up to a target and where we are in comparison. We'd be able to see where we're underperforming or overachieving. My other point was, if you look at something like building maintenance and go across to the actual expenditure to date, in the September figure it's 2.1 million. A month earlier it's 1.6 million. So that's an expenditure of £500,000 in a month. I mean, that seems a very large spend for a single month. You're probably paying previous receipted items or something, but...
I think Stephen's maybe got a response to that.
Through you, Chair. If you look at the September expenditure, the September expenditure is basically catching up with the the August works. So one of our main spend periods is the school summer holidays. So the works will be carried out up till the end of August. The contractors then submit their invoices. They are then paid in September, hence they'll hit the September budgets. That's why that figure will be so high.
Thank you. So that's just part of the normal cycle.
It's just part of the normal cycle. I mean, if you look at the actual overall expenditure for building services in terms of its contractors, we're spending about £8 million a year. So if you divide that by 12, £500,000 isn't really a big number.
Okay, and Caroline, the other point with regards to graphs?
Certainly, I can attempt to provide a graph for next monitoring. We'll see what we can do about that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. I've got Malcolm, then Doug. Yep, Doug.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, page 8, 3.13. Can you explain to me really why we've got an additional cost this year of £20,000 for checking licences of staff eligible to drive council vehicles?
Gordon.
Through you, Chair. That's a cost that we've actually always had. We have to check licences to ensure that folk are legal to drive what we need them to drive. Via our occupational road risk policy as well, that's something that we have to do as an organisation. We hold operator licence, and again that pushes down the good practice route of being able to do that. Drivers are checked throughout the year at different times depending on whether they drive cars, HGVs, buses or whatever. That's just the cost of it. The cost usually sits within my fleet management software system. However, to sort of take the middleman away and give us better management control over that information, we now do it separately direct to the source. Does that make sense?
Thanks for that. So this is something you're looking at, obviously bringing down the cost of, as you're saying here. Right, okay.
Okay, Doug. Jim?
Thanks, Chair. 3.3, building cleaning. Given the savings to be made through ERVS, is it likely that non-council work can still be maintained?
Alan, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, Chair, through yourself. Yeah, I think valid point. I think the remodelling, to answer it in a short answer, the remodelling that we're currently going through will ensure that sustainability of the external works that we've got will still be maintained comfortably within the current staff and resource that we've got, Chair.
Chair, does that apply to non-council work going forward?
Yeah, so basically if we're looking at any additional external works, the contracts that was coming in, then they would be evaluated based on costs associated with the staffing, so they would be enrolled in, and it may be if you look at the Loreburn contract that we've currently got externally, then we're recruited within our internal workforce to do that, but then at that time would backfill in, so any contract that come in would be costed around additional workforce being established to deliver that contract, rather than, I think what you're getting at, Councillor, is it's economies of scale of the current workforce. Would they be able to take on additional work? Depending on the size of the contract, then that would be evaluated. What I can say is under the remodelling that we're going through, and it's comprehensive, is that we're looking at establishing mobile work teams within the new remodelling of the cleaning team, which will allow us to supplement and support any additional income opportunities that then arise in the future.
Would there be any plans to use subcontractors?
There's absolutely no plans at this time of outsourcing any of the works. It would be delivered from in-house teams.
Good to hear. Archie then, Kate.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I once met a lady called the Scottish Transport Commissioner, and coming back to what Dougie says, obviously there's issues after the Glasgow bin lorry incident and things like that, and just thinking about what Doug had said earlier on, obviously that's one of the checks that needs to be in place, Gordon, but there was also other checks that were done, maintenance checks and things like the Scottish Transport Commissioner actually got, and we had quite a high return on that particular thing. Can you tell us where we are with that? I think it was 94-95% or something of maintenance where we are with that. Can you tell us where we are now?
Through you, Chair. I think you're talking about our OCRS score, which is basically a score via the operator's licence that tallies up the amount of roadside checks that we get. It takes our MOT pass rate into consideration. Historically that runs off traffic lights, so you're either green, amber, red or grey if you haven't been checked for a while. So we're sitting in the green with that particular score, and our current MOT pass rate is about 92%. National average is in about 70-80%.
Okay, Katie.
Thank you, Chair. It's kind of picking up one of the points Councillor McComb just made there in terms of the cleaning and external customers. Now, obviously, we have approved our business plan, and one of the points that I had raised previously that we should have key performance indicators, and I'd actually asked for further information that we actually get targets that we can see if we're on target. Now, we don't have specific targets. Obviously, there's the key performance indicators that we'll be measuring against. But, in terms of taking that example of the external customers, we've got an income of £178,000 there. Is that on target? Were we wanting to have more? Were we looking, are we ahead of what, there's no targets in here. And is it possible to, have that information? Again, it's just getting more clarity to find out where we are with the service. Because obviously, we've got a high overview with the appendix of these big services of where we are in terms of our published budget. But, when we're looking at it, and my understanding is the subcommittee's role is to look at more of these items in detail, because obviously we have got the external cleaning contracts, but we've got things like the taxi testing, and we've also got things like the ad hoc repairs and external customers. Where are our target figures to know actually we're doing really well with that, or actually we could be doing better? How do we know whether this is good or not?
Okay, just before I bring Alan or others in, really what I look at is the high level summaries, and I mean the table at 3.2 is a good indication, and it'd be remiss of me as chair, I thought maybe someone would mention that the good performance that we're doing on the trading services. But if you look at the building and cleaning on the trading arm of it, I mean projected surplus is 106 and we're on target to actually meet that. And Galt and Stephen's service, 175,000 is what we're projecting as a surplus compared to 94. So, overall, okay, there's an issue with vehicle maintenance, but we hope to break even on that. But, at the moment, we're predicting 45,000 above what we predicted for the surplus. So, I'm all for giving more information, but, at the same time, I think, if we look at the high-level information, it shows that we are how we're performing. Alan, do you want to comment?
Chair, I mean, Caroline will maybe get an overview on it. I mean, certainly specifically for myself, as I think probably clarity required around the committee and the fact that, you know, if we're looking at detail, then I think it's one of them. When we're looking at contracts and service-specific details, then it would be, if members say that urge or ambition to see that, then please, you know, it would be just come in and have a look at it. And the cleaning one specifically is worth mentioning, because if you look at the text that sits below the table, the 106 is clearly £75,000 inclusive of the saving, with the additional then that's surplus from that. So that's the way that it's set up under our council, under a trading account. But maybe it's not clear as it should be for a trading perspective. So it's £75,000 of that 106 is a saving contribution that the council gave on the back of that. And I think the 36 is almost within target. And I appreciate it's not there within the report, it's in target of what we set up when we established the contract originally, what the projected surplus would be. But I think that detail would be absolutely delighted if we could get members to come in and they wanted to see how them parts work. Caroline?
Just to say, Chair, that these figures are the targets. These budgets are the budgeted income. And therefore, in effect, that is what we're expecting to come in at the beginning of the year, and by having a balanced budget. Now, it probably does need maybe another column to say whether they're on target or not. That's maybe another refinement onto this, but in effect, those are the targets.
Okay, and we'll take that on board with regards to the suggestion of another column. Jim?
Thanks, Chair. Appendix 2. Private capital works. Now, there is an anticipated income of £90,000 there, but the surplus generated is only £368. Are there outstanding bills still to be paid on that work?
Stephen?
Private capital works are basically works that we can allow our workforce to do to increase our efficiencies. Now, if we are to say we are going out and doing works for a private individual, then private individuals can contact us through the Trusted Trader Scheme, which Building Services is part of. We also have links to other private companies which are in there, which we are in the process of signing up to do a refurbishment for a local charity, a building in Irish Street. Now, in terms of the surplus that's generated there, it's not because there's bills outstanding, it's because we are trying to use efficiencies through our own workforce. And the fact is, if we put a high profit margin on there, we won't get the private work. We have to compete in the market that's out there. Now, it's pretty evident within the region at the minute, a lot of companies are doing work at negative margins just to keep workforces employed. So that does actually keep the workforce employed as our main aim there, to allow us to continue to provide the services to the council.
I've just got one question, and maybe Stephen can ask, but maybe yourself, Ronnie. It's obviously, when I've read this report, then, you know, pleased with the performance, and actually, you know, that, you know, also I've just kind of mentioned, you know, that we're predicting a surplus above the surplus that we'd actually set our targets for. I'm just wanting to make sure, obviously, the last financial period last year caused us some concern, so we have been doing work behind the scenes to ensure that that doesn't happen again. So I just thought maybe a reassurance or an update to members on that.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's fair to give the committee the assurance that the challenge that we had internally last year in relation to working with our colleagues in property and architectural services has closer linkages now, that we're ensuring month by month the building services team can see what projects are on track or not on track, and we're reporting that through to our finance officers and to the Section 95 officer to ensure that the spend profile, not only our side of the business, but in our colleagues within the property side, are on track. So the assurance is there that that is being done on a monthly basis.
That's great. I'm sure all members will welcome that. So can we move towards the recommendations? 2.1, pleased, can we note that based on the 5 months expenditure, Enterprise and Training Services is currently projected to return a surplus of 281,000, as opposed to budgeted surplus of 236k as detailed in Appendix 1. 2.2, that the Enterprise and Services Management Team are currently identifying measures to address a currently projected overspend of 82,000 as detailed in Appendix 1, and that the service is continuing to maximise all opportunities for service efficiencies. Okay, thanks. Item 4, which is the Enterprising Services Operational Update. This report provides members with an insight to key operational areas within the service covering the last 9 months. This report, when read, clearly demonstrates the wide and varied activities delivered by Enterprise and Services across our region for our council and to the wider community of Dumfries and Galloway. I think this report was asked for so we can get a little bit more insight into all the various activities being undertaken by the department. I would hope members would see this as a good news story, most of the items that are in here, and it also allows a clear insight to the operations delivered by this frontline service. We have a number of the report authors and officers in attendance who can answer any questions. Anything to add? Members? Councillor Driver.
Thanks very much, here. I'm at page 21 looking at the 20 and 21 on the waste collection side of things. I just wanted to make sure that the communication plan that this is actually going out to make sure that customer service centres are aware of what's actually going on here.
Through you, Chair, yes, we'll be working with our colleagues within the strategic waste side within EAI to ensure that that plan is fully addressed and is communicated widely to ensure that there is no ambiguities.
Okay, thanks. Jim?
Thanks, Chair. I wasn't aware I'd put my hand up, but I have a question here for you. Right. Page 5. No.
It's why I've got these glasses, a new glasses. Councillor Nicholl.
I'll give you a question later.
She's cleaned them, Sean. Cleaned them. No, it's just, I'm confused. Total number of pool cars says 176. Total number of dedicated cars is 45. Does that mean that we've got 176 plus 45, or are the 45 included in the 176?
Go ahead.
Through you, Chair, included in, Councillor, included in the 176.
We have 176 cars in total, 46 of which are dedicated to individual drivers. Is that the case?
Between individuals and teams. Teams.
So we have 176 cars doing 800,000 mile a year, which works out at 4,500 miles per car. Is that correct?
The pool of vehicles all day cover a mileage in a year, but it should average out about 10,000. I think the figures that you're quoting there will be a year-to-date figure.
Date of miles travelled to date is 219,000. Total number of miles travelled in 1718 was 796,000. And being a simple chap, I rounded that up to 800. So they're averaging 4,500 mile a year.
Sorry, Councillor, you're right enough. The figures I quoted there for 1718 is nearly 800,000. Then we've got years to date travelled. Then the bottom figures, the saving that the complete fleet brings against a grey mileage equivalent. So in effect, by running the pool fleet that we've got against paying grey mileage claims, the saving figure is 82,000 year to date.
Do you want to come back, Graham, or you? Okay, Katie?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just want to say thank you for the confirmation that there's going to be a communication plan sent out regarding the waste. Having sat doing my counsellor surgery in the customer service department in Newton Stewart Library, the staff there have no information to hand out to customers coming in, and customers aren't aware of the costs of the white bags going up. So it's great that we have got a communication plan. Can we ensure that our customer service staff have that information? Because it's, in my view, I don't think it's fair that they're in the front line and they don't have that literature to explain, because actually ultimately we want people to encourage the recycling, which hopefully this will do. So I'm pleased to know that we do have a plan in place, and I look forward to seeing it implemented. In terms of the report in front of me, I've got a couple of questions really. One of which is, well, if I start with the facility services catering, and it makes reference to changes that it's noted that will have a positive impact on young people's diets, but that there are concerns regarding negative impacts. I'm just wondering what those concerns might be. And also, I'm back to my targets again. On the online payments, it says that we're looking to have that rolled out next year in 2019 for online payments at primary schools. Certainly this is something I've been approached by parents of primary school children. When are we looking to have that completed by? Because obviously we've got here throughout 2019. Do we have a rough idea, date-wise, of when that's likely to happen?
Alan?
Yeah, Chair through yourself. So, in reference to the impact, potentially what we're talking about the catering is certainly the positive changes in new nutritional bill legislation coming in, which has been part of our 2-year consultation through Scottish Government. Early indications are suggesting that the recommendations that's going to come into that are going to be significantly reduced product offering within schools. That's been finalised based on the conclusion of the consultation at the moment, but early indications through the HNIE are we're going to be looking at probably the same type of impact across schools in Scotland as we did with the nutrition bill impact that came in. So it's got to be that much changing, i.e. examples. Scottish Government are going to probably dedicate that we can only sell red meat twice a week. As an example, we will not be able to sell any flavoured juices or fruit juices, apple juices. It will only be milk and water. But potentially, as a counter of that, it may be that we can bring carbonated drinks back in to try and counteract that, because it will reduce calorie intake. Across that, there'll probably be the nutritional information that suggests that the morning break provision that currently is not inclusive of the full nutrition regulations will be part of. And basically we're going to probably see a reduction of what we see as product line at the moment, a 40% reduction of what we currently sell under nutrition bill legislation being reduced and not being liable under the new legislation. So whilst we welcome the potential health implications that the new nutritional regulations will enforce, as officers of this and having the history of Hungry for Success and the nutrition bill legislation coming in, we have raised, and through APSI, 32 authorities have raised major concern around potential impact on uptake across the board. Second point on the online payments. Online payments in the primary schools, we've rolled out in any of the new campuses that we've got in the combined. So Dalbeattie is an example in St Joseph's. We've been looking at doing that. We're coming across some technology issues at the moment about rolling them across the board in the primary sector, and we're actually testing change around the mobile, or utilising the technology system of hotspotting through a mobile phone, because BTS have issues around the broadband width within schools and us actually utilising it. Don't know the technical issues behind that, Chair. However, we're positively trying to move forward through hotspotting through mobile phones. At this time, we could not put a timeline associated with the full rollout on primary schools, because we're testing them changes and testing the technology. But I think from a service perspective, we've been trying to push this through for the last 2 years, and I'm very keen to be seeing it implemented as soon as possible. That's as clear a timeline as I could give. Chair.
Thanks for that detailed answer, Alan. Katie, do you want to come back?
Yep, thank you, Chair. I appreciate what you're saying in terms of the rollout of the new legislation that's coming. I'm just slightly concerned because in 4.4 we're talking about rolling out our new Globetrotter menu. Now, if that Globetrotter menu is not going to sit within the current legislation, why would we be rolling out a new menu in 2019 when in fact it's completely going to change in 2020. I'm just slightly concerned why we're putting energy into this menu, which, yes, I'm reading that the uptake has been really good, but if it's not going to be compliant, why are we pursuing this specific menu?
Alan?
So, Chair, through yourself, as the service always is, innovation moving forward, trying to foresee the future. The Globetrotter menu has been launched in preparation of nutrition legislation coming out. So we're trying to utilise mostly chicken dishes and stuff in the new Globetrotter menu, the Taste of the World. So what we're utilising the Globetrotter menu at the moment is that test of change around about nutrition legislation coming in, so that we don't fall into the category when I first came into the council of trying to change overnight. So the Globetrotter menu has been in there, trying to change the culture around the concept of the food that we're trying to do, and that's been taken on board significantly around our recycling, our packaging, our street food concept, our Taste the World, and we're looking this year at being innovative around potentially relaunching the Globetrotter menu through what we call as a junior Globetrotter menu through the primary schools, so that we can try and tie in and get engagement from schools and pupils around the changes that's coming in and potentially the Taste of the World concept that we're going to launch. So it's in preparation of, Chair.
Effectively, it's basically planning ahead and trying to be ahead of the game, isn't it? Yeah. Doug?
Thanks, Chair. I don't know where I start with this, actually, because you mentioned Globetrotter chicken. It's been brought to my attention that we're importing chicken from Thailand. And that's what I was going to get to you, actually. So you're talking about globetrotting. We pride ourselves in purchasing stuff locally, which is good for us as a council, really, and for local manufacturers and providers. So can you bring it, hammer a nail on this and explain to me where we're getting our chicken from, basically?
Before you come in, Alan, I'm aware that I think Scottish Conservatives have put a freedom of information request out across the 32 local authorities, requesting information on, what councils and where they purchase the food sources from. So I know Alan is very aware of that, and give Alan the opportunity to kind of explain the circumstances and hopefully the position we are in Dumfries and Galloway probably as the leading local authority for purchasing local goods in the whole of Scotland.
Yeah, Chair, I think without taking too much time, albeit it's quite a complex situation that we've got with this and this, I think to start off with, because I'm quite passionate about the chicken situation, as Ronnie would tell you, where we go with that, and we'll maybe we may touch on that, as Archie's aware of as well, my vision on that one. So I think what we've got is I think it's fair to say that Dumfries and Galloway has been part of circumstances around what's been going on across Scotland. I think it's worthwhile touching on we are leading across Scotland in local purchasing, and 40%, albeit we'd like it to be higher, 40% of our current spend across our total food spend is local, and that's significantly higher than it is across Scotland. We've got Argyll and Bute, Glasgow, we've got North Ayrshire, who's come down and trying to replicate what we're currently doing with central store and our local purchasing. We've had John Davidson, the head of food and drink industry growth for Scottish Government, down and is using us as best example across the Food for Life and Soil Association example. We've had Professor Mary Brennan, Chair of Food Marketing Society, University of Edinburgh, down from the business school, using us as best practice not just across Britain but across Europe. And as a consequence of that, we were asked to go to the Eating City Summer Campus in Paris. If a free one employee was fully costed to go to that, which has pushed us across not just our own borders but across the European borders as best practice around what we're trying to achieve for local purchasing. So touching on chicken, where we sit with that is, my understanding is, and I've had this verified, is we don't buy any chicken from Thailand. We were caught in through some of the Scotland XL contractors, some shaped and shaped chicken products that were certainly from that source, but we're removed from that, and most of our chicken, if not all our chicken, in fact all our chicken is red chapter chicken that we purchase. Now Scottish chicken is a separate issue, because Scottish chicken, looking at, is almost cornered by the Two Sisters organisation. So the Two Sisters organisation are supplying to the top three. What I have done is working with Scottish Government through Robin Gourley, and also working through John Davidson, and looking at opportunities of how we can actually, as a local authority, support Scottish chicken farming. Now, the consequence of that seems to be that the biggest issue that we've got is, one is processing, and Scottish Government's looking at up in the East Coast. The second part of that is actually the biggest cost to chicken farming is land. One of the things that Scottish Government or local governments have that is abundant is land. So John Davidson was going to take that feedback back to Scottish Government and look at Dumfries and Galloway as a potential instigator of that, potentially looking forward. I think what's worthwhile mentioning is the local authority itself is tied into Scotland XL contract, And as part of that, that's not for myself or this committee, it's part of Council and Policy and Resources. I think we are testing the grey areas around that, around looking at local procurement and purchasing. And as I say, more than happy to have a visit from members around that. I think it's unfortunate for the officers that have put in an awful lot of work into the Archery D&G brand. It's nationally and internationally recognised now, that we see local press that has been instigating that that's not us, whereas I think across our parties within there, with the hard work that we've done, should be recognised for that. And as I say, nationally, we're getting national recognition for that, Chair.
Thanks for that brief answer, Alan. But I know I know you're passionate about it, and I know we are expecting a report in future about potential chicken farms in Dumfries and Galloway. But, yeah, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chair. Alan, thanks very much for that comprehensive answer. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Can just say as well, you mentioned North Ayrshire as well, and I did notice that, and I'm glad that North Ayrshire are coming down here to see what we're doing down here, because I think their 12% is sourced locally. So the fact that we're leading the way in 40% is very, very encouraging. David?
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. I'm on page 19, and I've counted there are 22 swimming pool cars. Are they cars that deliver customers, swimmers? Maybe disabled ones, but they should be vans maybe then. And Councillor Johnson wants to know if they're amphibious.
No, he doesn't.
I think it's just a location, but Gordon will confirm.
Through you, Chair. If they were going to be amphibious, it'd be Land Rovers if it was up to me, but there you go. The 22 cars are there to support predominantly social work within Annan swimming pool and probably Castle Douglas swimming pool. They'll be the biggest customers. So it's purely for council employees. Whether Sport and Leisure use them to deliver kids or students or whatever it is to swimming pools, I've no idea, to be honest, what the specific use is.
Can you clarify something here? It's swimming pool car parks that are not swimming pools.
I'll just Councillor Driver, it's actually the locations. It's just because it happens to be that there's car parks beside the swimming pools in Annan.
Sorry, I misunderstood your question there. Well, they're there for a couple. They're there for a couple of reasons actually. The swimming pools can provide the reception to help us manage the cars for bookings in and out and so on. And yes, it's a good source of car parking to keep them. And they're also in quite decent strategic locations for the users.
Sure. 4.8.1 early years nursery meals. Now, I note that 4 pilot nurseries were involved, only one of which was a private provider. And in the next phase, 5 nurseries, none of whom were private providers. My question is, were efforts made to involve more of the private or voluntary sector nurseries in the rollout of nursery meals?
Alan?
Chair, to yourself, I think since writing the report slightly changed, I think, where we are with that. So we've had some really proactive meetings with SIPL around the nursery meal provision, and we've engaged with, I think it's another 3 private contractors in Annan that will potentially offer our services too. But I think what we've agreed is that we will, through SIPL and the nursery team, is that when they meet with the private providers, our services will be offered conclusively across the board, of which we've got an implementation assistant within our team that will then meet with the private nurseries and ask them if they would prefer, we can offer that service to them if they so wish, so that they're equal and being treated fairly as they would be for any in-house providers. Chair.
So it is now a more balanced picture than the data in the report.
Yeah, Chair, I think it's probably fair just to say yes, it is.
Katie, then John, then Archie.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to jump back to the chicken situation and in terms of our food provenance. Certainly, if we're going to be looking at chicken farms in Dumfries and Galloway, I would put my plea in now that we're looking at ethical chicken farms. I understand that we want to make money, but we need to have, ethics in there. We're a public body, and I would like to hope that we're looking at that from that point of view, rather than just seeing how many chickens we can squeeze into one barn to raise for meat. It's on the same issue on 4.5, with reference to Muller-Wiseman funding and funding our provenance brochure. Can I ask why we're using such a huge multinational organisation when, in fact, we have in our own region, for example, Roan Milk is an independent dairy supplier. We've also got the ethical dairy. Last month, we had our food and drink strategy that we agreed at within EEI committee, and actually food and drink is a huge industry for Dumfries and Galloway, and we as a council are supporting that. So can I ask why we're not supporting our independent suppliers and we're going straight for these multinationals? I get that they might have money, but have we even engaged with the local suppliers to find out if there's a way to engage with them? The other point, just back on food again, on 4.10, it talks about the enterprising catering staff looking at holiday hunger. Are we ensuring that we're actually reaching the children that really need it? And I say this as a parent of a child who received free food in the summer holidays, but actually I would have been quite happy to pay for that. My child did get food, and that was great, and that was fine, but he wasn't the target audience of combating holiday hunger, I would say. So how are we ensuring that we're actually reaching the right children and we're not just ticking a box?
3 points there, Alan. Do you want to pick them all up? Chickens, milk, and then free food.
Yeah, so the chicken one, I think maybe worth clarity for the minute, I think, is that as an enterprising entity, we're not looking at establishing chicken farms. I think what we're trying to do is work with the Scottish Government around supporting chicken farmers, and I'm guessing that would be ethically balanced through the Scottish Government. I think the second part is milk distribution. I think there's two sides to that. One, that's the Scotland XL contract as it stands at the moment. However, we did do our local loan procurement of that for many years, and it was Wiseman that secured that through equal procurement opportunity for local suppliers. The issue that sits mainly is distribution. Local suppliers across, unless we were prepared to look at something significantly radical that would have to be away from this committee and through procurement, then that would be a host of issues associated with supply. The model that we work through at the moment is very, very favourable through our central stores. That has not got the capacity to do the distribution of milk through local suppliers. And that's that issue we've got. I think it's worth noting, though, that Wiseman support a huge amount of local dairy farmers within Dumfries and Galloway, with Dumfries and Galloway producing 40% of all milk that's produced in Scotland. And I think that's key. So I think that there is that part that by supporting Wiseman's, we are supporting a huge amount of local dairy farmers within the area as well, would be my take on that one. The third one was holiday hunger. Probably an easier answer to this one is that we're only the provider, Chair. I think it's the funder is communities, and the deliverer or our commissioner through that is SIPL. So can support some of the comments we've got there, but as a provider, we have no control over that.
That's correct. I thought that would be the answer. John?
I would like to thank Gordon for putting up with my EMESs regarding electric vehicles. You've been very patient. On page 20, I'm pleased to see so many rapid chargers are going in, because that's what users of electric vehicles need. They need rapid chargers, and a lot of time is wasted at these rapid chargers, with hybrid vehicles taking ages to charge up when it's not really necessary. The point I was going to make was a lot of these proposed locations are sort of town centre, and I wonder if any thought's been given to having rapid chargers beside routes, or in particular in small villages beside routes, where you'll get a wee economic boost from perhaps a family travelling through, waiting for 40 minutes to charge their car, going to the shop, cafe, and then moving on again. So is consideration being given to route-side chargers rather than town centre chargers?
Vice Chair, I didn't hear you declare an interest at the start of the meeting, but I'll hand it.
No, I've actually not really got an interest, but it's worth saying my electric vehicle is virtually charged totally at home, as are most. It's just these chargers tend to be used for long journeys.
Yeah, go on.
Through you, Chair. The issue is not the issue they've got, but how we've looked at prioritising our spend for the money that we get from the Scottish Government is firstly within the town centres. And as you can see from the list that we've got there, we're then looking at Kirkcudbright, Money we've put one in Sanka, so that probably catches the areas that you're talking about. It's the places on the main trunk roads or the main tourist routes that people stop for half an hour for a coffee, can get a fast charge or a rapid charge and then be on their way again. So that would be like phase 2 or 3 of the project, maybe a year and a half or 2 years down the road. And at the moment we're trying to concentrate on the larger hubs within the town centres to sort of promote some sort of infrastructure, because we've basically got nothing at the moment. So that seemed like a good starting place, if that makes sense.
The answer, John, you want to come back?
No, I appreciate that, and thank you for that full answer. It's just in our ward we've got villages like Springholm and Crocketford, which are right on the main route through, and I think they might benefit for consideration regarding a rapid charger.
Through you, Chair, the likes of Springholm, for example, it sits right on the 75. There's a different funding stream that we're looking at. We're looking at support for the trunk road funding for those types of villages. And they're looking for the criteria of just the village that sits right on the trunk road. It's got a cafe, it's got a wee bit of car parking space to put in rapid chargers. So we're speaking with the Scottish Government about that as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Archie.
It's just a point of thanks, Chair, for Alan and his team. I know that the providers, the suppliers that we have, put some money into, or some produce into making sure food banks have got extra meals and things like that. I just personally want to thank him for his team for the amount of food that was given to both the Veterans Breakfast Clubs, one in Dumfries and one in Stranraer, just very recently, and they were very helpful for that. Cheers.
And things like that can feature in future reports as well. Can I just ask members as well, this is the first time they've put this report together. I think it's an excellent report. It gives us an insight into all the various work that's been done. So, we're looking forward to actually getting these on a regular basis going forward, yeah? Yeah. Jim?
Just getting back to the rapid chargers, Chair, I notice there is only one location in Wigtown area. That south of Stranraer, you've got about 25 miles with nothing. South of Newton Stewart, you've got 20 miles with nothing. And in that 20 miles, you've got Whithorn with the roundhouse, which attracts now, I would say in the year, thousands of visitors. And you have Scotland's National Book Town in Wigtown, neither of which have rapid chargers.
Gordon, do you want to comment on that, or if there's any plans?
Through you, Chair. Again, I'll go back to what I said at the start. There's very limited funding for this, so we can't touch everywhere all at once. That's just impossible. You'll also notice for the list that there's nothing in Annan, Langham, Gretna, on the other side of the region. What we're planning to attack was to try and link Dumfries, Castle Douglas. There's already a rapid charger in Newton Stewart. There's one in Gatehouse, and then onto a major hub in Stranraer. With those amount of chargers across the region and the ranges that cars have got nowadays, there'll not be many places that you can't reach in an electric car or a hybrid car for that matter. So that's the first plan of attack. The second plan of attack will be going the other way up to Gretna and touching the wee villages, and then out to the wee outlying bits that we're talking about with Councillor Young. So it's very unfortunate, but we've got a small amount of money to deal with, and we just have to try and do the best with that we will. We did actually apply for funding, £2.5 million worth of funding for Scottish Government, and we didn't get a penny. That funding went to Glasgow, Edinburgh, Stirling, the bigger cities, so we didn't even get a look in. So we're just unfortunately left with the money that they've gave us on here. I have applied for another £250,000 via the Scottish Government on a surplus that they've got for the original towns and cities funding, so hopefully I'll hear in January, and if we get that, we can start looking at doing a wee bit additional in the other areas.
Bring Ronnie in as well, I think he wants to ask.
Chair, just through you as well, Gordon and his team have been working at this to try and bring in. One of the key elements behind all this is the very stringent criteria that sits within the funding that comes available to councils and bidding in against that. So whilst we're endeavouring to get as many of these charges as we can, the criteria is very stringent on the localities to mean routings and arterial routes just now, but that is what this team is working on to maximise what availability can come to this region with these rapid chargers, and that we will continue to bid in for those.
It's maybe something for groups to consider, as they formulate the budget proposals for next year. Okay, any other members? Any other questions? No, can move to the recommendation, which is members are asked to note the service updates from facility services, vehicle and fleet maintenance, roads and waste services, and building and construction maintenance.
Let me change one bit, just note and endorse.
Note and endorse, yeah, I'm happy to do that, yeah. Members happy with that? Yeah. Is any other business? We have item 6, which is consider adoption of resolution to exclude the public from the meeting in terms of section 50A 4 and paragraph 6, 9 and 10 of part 1 of Schedule A of the Local Government Scotland Act 1973. Members agreed?